All right, so when it comes to dealing with value, you're going to be dealing with edges. I mean, the next thing after value is sort of edges. So here's what edges are. Edges are transitions between shapes, right? Okay, it's like if I want, I can have. Let me just make this shape here. Let me get the cutter out. Okay. So now that I got this cutting tool, all right. There isn't just one shape here, by the way. There's two. Here's one shape, the one shape that you all see. That's the other shape. So when you have these two shapes, you're showing how does, one edge of a shape, how do they transition? What's the, how does, if I want, I can, let's use an eraser and here we go, right? I can soften that edge. All right, so this is a smooth transition, for instance. So why would you want sharp transitions? Why would you want smooth transitions and that sort of thing? Well, take, for instance, this sphere. Okay, let's do that lighting thing. Let's light it up. And first I'll lock the alpha channel. Okay, so, whoops, I've gone to the first frame. Here we are. Okay, that's a relatively smooth transition. In fact, let me use an airbrush. Here we go. And let me set that curve to be a default. Yeah. Okay. Step's fine, power's fine, drawing's fine. I want a bigger brush though. Okay. All right, so I'm using the airbrush because it gives a soft edge. And you'll notice how big my brush is, right? Like I've used a brush that is, that big. And that gives that now I've got a very, very softly curving sphere. Oops, in fact, I think I'll be a little bit more gradual. Okay. And then now I'll use this very, very sharp one to put in my specular highlight. So that's a soft edge. It's a soft transition. Airbrushes are really good for soft transitions. They're really good if you need, a really smooth edge between things. There's nothing like the airbrush. But you don't use an airbrush when you need a hard transition. If you need, if you need a box edge, right, then you wouldn't use an airbrush. I'll show you why. There's a time and a place for every tool. When you start using airbrush for a box edge, it's like it doesn't look good, right? Instead, you got to go in with the eraser with the same, airbrush, and you got to spend some time to trim the thing down. That's additional steps, that you have to spend trying to trim the thing down, and it'll never be a sharp, sharp, sharp edge. It'll always be like soft like that. So you got to use the right tool for the job. You got to have, one brush for your soft stuff. You got to have another brush for your hard stuff. So, in this case, I would just chop that, and you get your nice hard transition. Okay, so let's do that abstract blob thing again. All painting is abstract until you make it into an optical illusion. So, in fact, I'm going to take this abstract blob and let me get the cutter out. Okay. Let's give it some round stuff. Let's give it some hard shapes, round and hard. Okay, so remember, it's an abstract blob until you make it look like something that's not abstract. So okay, so now I'm using the airbrush here. And let's turn off the drawing mode. Whoops. So you got soft edges, Like if you have a soft silhouette, let's use a soft edge on that. And, you know, I think I'll bounce a little light. I use soft on that as well. I'll even, you know, use a bit of soft edging in here. But now I'm going to trim that away, you know. And then let's use this circle brush, this other hard circle brush. And so now I have a hard transition in there. And maybe I can, it's all just abstract shapes. I mean, it's still just a flat canvas, but you have to make sure that your values match up to your silhouettes. I'm thinking, you know, it's not really working. It's not quite going the way I'd like it to. I'm gonna worry about that part maybe well, hang on, wait, now I see it. Maybe if I do that. Oh, that's better. Yeah, okay. There. So now we're just sculpting that. And maybe I can just light that up. Right, so as I'm putting these values in, I'm still putting in more shape. Every time you throw in a new value, if you got a new, you know, color, if my brush is not the same color as the thing that I'm painting on, I'm throwing in a new shape, right? The moment I do that, a new shape has been added, right? Or the shape has been changed. So when you're painting, let me turn out the alpha lock this time. When you're painting, you're doing one of two things. You're either altering shapes, or you're, you know, like meaning that you're either, you know, adding these new shapes like this. So this means I've altered the shape. I've, you know, added a new silhouette, or I'm going onto that shape and I'm adding a shape within a shape. I'm further cutting up that shape. I'm further, you know, I'm trying to make it look like I'm lighting that shape. Right. So that's all this is. This is like, you know, solid modeling. It's like you've got clay. You know, you're a sculptor with an infinite supply of clay. That's what painting is. Right? And, you know, I'm not even dealing with color here. You know, the whole thing about value is just, you know, the addition of additional shapes. You know, yes, light comes into effect, and you got to know where the light's going, and that kind of thing. But that's something for, you know, another tutorial. All right, so that's what this painting stuff is. Now, let me think for a second. So, I mean, these sharp shapes, you can see there's a sharp contour on these. Sharp contours are usually going to call for sharp edges, right? Or just, you know, it won't look right. The illusion will kind of fall apart. In fact, in this case, I think, let me put that dark spot back in there and then crunch that back inside. Use black. Just bend that back. Okay, so this is what edges are for. Edges allow you to bend things, right? I can, watch this. In this case, this surface here, it's very smooth. But let's say I take, you know, like a hammer, a big fat mallet, and, you know, bash that corner. Look, I've bashed it and I've dimpled it in by adding a hard edge. I've taken this one color here at this zone here, and I've spread it out like that. And then maybe I can grab that black and just, you know, darken that down. If I want, I can even dimple this in. So let's dimple it. You know, I have to make that into a crevice. So I'm adding another shape, you know, to really push that in. You know, I'm just taking my thumb and I'm jamming it in that jam it in. And then I got to take this light color up here and give that a little bit of a rim highlight. Do a good job on that rim, you know. So now that's what this is. All of this painting stuff, it's just, you know, when you're putting in your edges and you're putting in your values, you know, it's all manipulation of shape. It's all drawing. It's all it's painting begins with the drawing. The drawing drives the value. the form that you require and the lighting situations that you have, those drive the value as well. So I mean, I've pushed it in. Now, what if I want to take something out? Let's say, like I've taken my thumb, I've jammed it in there. What happens if I want to pinch a piece and pull it out? What do I get? So, you know, again, I've got to take this color here. I'm using my eyedropper on this spot here, and I got to think, okay, well, I want to do the opposite now. I want to take a ball out. I want to take let's merge a sphere onto there. Well, I don't know what values are going to be there yet. I need to know what the shape is. So let's just kludge, you know, a big ball on there. And I'm like, okay, good. We've got shape now, right? And the shape looks like it, you know, there's a ball on there, but the values are all wrong, but the shape's correct. So I'll just take this dark, you know, here and I'm like, okay, well, this thing's got to cast a shadow, you know, right there. So let's cast the shadow, and maybe that will kind of help us a bit. And it looks like it had better lighten up, you know, somewhere up here. Okay, but it still looks too light down, you know, down here. So, you know, you don't just know value. You see value. You see whether or not things are right. You got to push them in the direction that you want them to go. You got to think, well, like what do I want? And you'll notice that I'm not cracking out the airbrush right now. I'm just using the hard circle brush to do my transition. And yeah, it's going to be a messy kind of blobby transition. It's not going to be all nice and smooth and polished and pretty. And maybe that might, you know, anger some people. You know, when they're painting, they might get mad that it doesn't look like it's the finished thing. But, you know, I'm still just, you gotta, you know, take it easy, man. You gotta just, you know, it's going to take time before you get all of the shapes correct, before you get the values right. In this case, I put down values, but now I'm reshaping the values because, you know, that part is a little too far out. So I gotta push that back in. And then we've got ourselves this edge right here. So I'm like, well, I think I better throw that little specular here. Well, that looks better. And there we go. Right. So this is why you do still lifes. The reason why you do a still life study, you take out the apples and the oranges and the bananas and whatnot, and you start painting them, is because the still life objects, they provide you with, a collection of edges and values and shapes and whatnot. And what you do when you paint when you're painting from reference, you have to look at the thing. You got to analyze it. You got to think, okay, what shape is that? Is that a hard edge? Is that a soft edge? What kind of silhouette am I going to require to make that thing? When you look at real life, reference, everything you need to know is right there. You just have to be able to analyze it and say, well, what brushstrokes will I use to replicate what I see? And that's all there is to it. You just, you have to have a good mastery of your tools. And by a mastery of your tools, I mean like if I need a sharp edge, like this, if I need to fill in this sharp corner, how will I do that, right? And you got to be able to do it easily and quickly. So maybe what I'll do is I'll use a big brush, and then I'll shrink my brush down as I move into that corner. There. And I'll zigzag back and forth until I can get the thing to fit. And here's another, I'll just start, mastery of your tool means that you can do it, fairly quickly, fairly easily, and, you're not fussing with it. Because the longer you fuss with something, especially the longer you're spending zoomed in, the more that you're losing sight of your painting, the less that you're doing creative things, the less that you're thinking, right? So that, this is one example. What if I need, say, a smooth transition from A to B? Then, how will you get from A to B? So how will you get that smooth transition? You've got a number of things. You can, turn the drawing off in TV Paint, and you can increase the amount of brush pressure as you move from left to right. And then since drawing is on or is off, I can trim that away, right? That's one way I can get a transition. Or another way I can get a transition, especially if I have something that's irregular, right? Like that. Okay. Now let's say A is the bright color, and B is the dark color. So B is here. I got another B here. Maybe I'll reverse one of these. Just so A to B. There's and there's an A. Okay. So B2B means it's going to be dark. So here's one thing that I find helps is that you increase the pressure as you move in, like that. You got to increase your pressure. So check your brush pressure settings. You're going to have to adjust your Wacom tablet and whatnot. So I'm moving light to dark. And you know what? It's not perfect. I don't really mind that it's not perfect. I got it 80 to 90% of the way there. There's just a few little gaps. Live with them. Deal with it. It's fine. Just leave it be. And now I'll take the bright, and I can increase. I can increase like that. That's, be able to make hard edges, be able to make soft edges. If I need hard transition right here at this line, then wham, there's my hard edge right there. So you got to be able to make hard edges, soft edges. You got to be able to fill in, small crevices, so you shrink down your brush and you deal with the small crevices. There's different things, different, things you're going to have to be able to do. You got to be able to deal with the small, sharp stuff. You got to be able to deal with the wide, flat stuff. Whether you're using airbrushes or masks or whatever, you're going to have to find the easiest way that you can do it. And if you can't find a really easy way, then you better just get used to it until it is easy. Anyway, let's see what else. Yeah, okay, let's end this demo here. I don't know, I'll figure out what the next one is.